Well, to discuss this, let's go to our panel. In Brussels, Enrico Brivio is the EU Commission spokesman for the Environment, Maritime Affairs and Fisheries. Samantha Burgess heads up European marine policy at the World Wildlife Fund. And Isabelle Maurizi is the head of sustainability and environment at EuroCommerce, a group which represents 6 million European companies. I thank you all for joining us on the Newsmakers. Let me go to the man, I guess, within the corridors of power to begin with. Enrico, this single-use plastic ban, tell me how much this means to you and to Europe.
Well, it's very important because this was recognized as a problem that not only has an impact on the environment, but also can have an impact at the end of the day on the health of citizens with microplastics, which is fragmented and end up in as marine litter, and it's eaten by fish that then can end up in on our plates. This is also a matter of concern for many citizens. We had that 75% of citizens consider it a problem that should be tackled also by Europe. So that's why we had a plastic strategy that has an approach to tackle the problem on several levels. And we had this single-use plastics proposal to ban the most polluting items that you can find on the beaches of Europe, and at the same time with the toolkits of measures that include also obligation for producer awareness campaign, labeling requirements, so several type of measures to tackle this problem.
Right, so we're polluting our oceans, we're choking our fish, we're destroying our ocean ecosystems. Isabelle, single-use plastic bags take more than 1,000 years to break down. This is a no-brainer, right? It should be done.
Indeed, we share the Commission's views on the necessity to tackle plastic and to ensure that we reduce unnecessary plastic packaging in the product we sell. We agree with the measures that are being provided into reducing single-use plastic consumptions, because I think everyone is aligned on the matter. The civil society, the private sectors, and the regulators agree on the urgency to decrease the reliance on unnecessary plastic and unnecessary single-use plastic items. In such manner, most of our members have committed to reduce and ban some single-use items, such as cutlery and plates. So yes, indeed, it's a necessity. We ought to do our share to tackle this marine litter. We tend to agree with most of the measures that are provided by the Commission, and we're happy to debate on these topics.
What don't you agree with?
It's not necessarily disagreement. We have concerns on certain issues, because what we're trying to do here goes into the global effect on ensuring that we provide a circular economy. So ensuring that we recycle content in a better manner, and that recycle plastic in a better way, but that we provide alternatives to plastic.
Okay.
The retailers and wholesalers are here to sell safe products.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. And I'm going to pose that to both, certainly, I'm going to pose that to both Samantha and Enrico. Let me start with Samantha. So Samantha, first of all, your take on the ban. And secondly, is it maybe not better to get better at recycling and to get better at finding alternatives to plastic? Samantha, go ahead.
Sure. Thank you for the invitation to speak here today. And yes, WWF is incredibly supportive of the European proposal to ban single-use plastic items and increase the extended producer responsibility. You're right in that increasing recycling is part of the issue, and changing out plastic items for renewable circular economy items that don't have the footprint on our oceans and on nature is also incredibly important. Obviously, we're 2 steps through this process, so we still need the trilogue negotiations with the European Council. The European Council had their position finalised today, so we look forward to the discussions over the next 6 weeks to ensure that we end up with a very ambitious piece of legislation that shows that Europe and the European Union is leading on this global environmental issue.
Mm-hmm. So Enrico, for those who say this would possibly hurt business, and for those who also say that when you use paper instead of plastic, it's almost in many ways equally harmful to the environment. You need a lot of energy to produce the paper and you leave behind a lot of pollution. Your response is?
Well, first of all, I would recall that those products were banned, well, products where there are alternatives available, and for other we restrict the use, but we recognize that certain type of plastics is very useful, for instance, in the medical field. Of course, paper can also pollute, but the important thing is to have some material which are biodegradable, that in time they can dissolve. So this already is a first distinction. The second point is, of course, for business purposes, let's not forget that this type of material, which are more eco-friendly or which are less polluting, are the future, because consumers require them, because the international standard require them. So to have a European industry develop more and more a green industry, it's an advantage for the whole economy.
Samantha, how important is it for Europe to lead the way on this?
It's really critical for Europe to provide leadership to the rest of the world. So Europe is the second largest emitter of plastic globally after China, and we're facing a crisis in our oceans. So every week we come across news articles with a dead whale or sea turtle or seabirds that wash up on our beaches. And we're facing a generational loss of juvenile seabirds because they're being fed plastic, because it floats on the surface of the ocean. So although as Europeans we need to look at our sustainability and consumption, we also need to look at having the market to innovate and provide products to the market that have a much lower environmental footprint to prevent this plastic leakage into the ocean. In addition to the European legislative proposal, WWF is also asking for a global legally binding agreement to eliminate plastic discharge into the oceans through the UN process.
Isabelle, would you support that?
I don't think it's up to us to see whether you should have international diplomacy on an overall ban on single use. I tend to agree with my counterparts on the fact that we need to ensure that the alternatives are sustainable, because sometimes we have seen, I mean, if you have to change one product with another, we need to ensure that there's science-based evidence providing and reassuring the consumer that we actually doing better for the environment. So sometimes we fear that we change from one product to another without ensuring that you have a certified forest suppliers, or that we're using one product that is not as sustainable as it stands. So this is more of a call for EU regulators to ensure that we do life cycle analysis of alternatives, but I see that the European Parliament has requested that into their review of the directive. The main concern we have is regarding the extended producer responsibility. Because extended producer responsibility is an amazing principle to ensure that the polluter pays. It has two major advantages. One is helping into waste management stream. Secondly is improving the design of products, because we are rewarded if the products are better designed. What is not doing is tackling littering, because littering is due to a mishandling of the waste. So we should find another solution to tackle litter outside of the waste stream, because it's not exactly the right framework, and we fear that it will be dysfunctional and just decrease the waste stream.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, we've just sort of skimmed the surface of this, and I hope to go into this in a bit more depth later on in the coming months. I hope to have you back on the program, but for now it's been a pleasure having you on the Newsmakers. Enrico Brivio, Samantha Burgess and Isabelle Maurizi, thanks again for joining us.